Make your life better with a new job at UPS. Join Team Louisville as a warehouse worker, earn $14.50 plus up to $425 in weekly bonuses depending on shift. Search and apply now at upsjobs.com/Louisville. That's upsjobs.com/Louisville.
CarMax is hiring experienced auto technicians for many of its 200-plus stores nationwide. If you're looking for a job where you can make a great living while working on the cars that you love, then CarMax is the place for you. Join CarMax to grow your technical expertise and work with state-of-the-art tools and technology. Work with the cars you love. Join CarMax. Apply today at CarMaxAutotech.com.
Exmark makes the mowers that care for the lawns that set the stage for the backyard life. As the commercial mowers more landscape pros trust, Exmark mowers get you on and off the lawn without compromising cut quality, comfort, or reliability. Exmark, official mowers of the backyard life, starting at $29.99. Learn about the available finance offers and check them out today at The Mower Shop, 7400 Preston Highway, Louisville, Kentucky, 502-969-6433.
Welcome back into the drive here on 93 on the Ville. Mark Guinness, Luke Hancock. A texter said, by the way, Luke, in your discussion of your decision, before we go to Shane Young here in just a second, your discussion of choosing where you were going to go to school after you left George Mason, that you just said that U of L's academics suck. And that's not true. You said that U of L's not Harvard. There's no shame in saying that.
Harvard was on my list.
That's what you were talking about.
Yeah. I don't know if I would have gotten into Harvard, but I've told this story a little bit before, but Kevin Keats was still the head coach at Hargrave when I decided I was going to transfer. So we started talking, and his response was basically like, send me a list of schools. Send me 10 schools that you're thinking about, and we'll start working through a list. Well, initially, like, he was trying to help me, and so those high academic institutions, he was basically like, we can work on that, but your basketball level needs to be higher. Like, you're going to have a ton of opportunity here. Like, we need to think about what's next. And then he stopped speaking to me for about 2 weeks because he didn't want to get in trouble with tampering or anything like that, and he started real conversations with the University of Louisville. He ends up getting my release after the fact, and then I was able to talk to U of L and move that direction. But, I mean, the business school at U of L was very attractive to me. I'm not overselling
And you've
anything,
done all right for yourself.
Yeah, I got no complaints.
Well, we're going to talk here with Shane Young here shortly. We've gotten to crunch time, Luke. You would agree with me when it comes to these NBA playoffs. It's about injuries. It is the dominant story in these playoffs. With the defending champs, and we'll bring Shane Young from Forbes in here now to answer kind of the same question here. Shane, this is the NBA playoffs of attrition here, and I know that I know what Tom Haberstroh did that long list where you can't put an asterisk on this because literally every NBA playoffs has this sort of issue, and I agree. But I've never seen it like this, where every round, every team, every series has had some sort of impact. Major impact with an important player due to injury. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
No, not to this degree. I don't think so, man. It's kind of crazy. It's unfortunate too because you don't want to see any championship success or championship team that is kind of tainted with the asterisk or anything of that nature. You don't want to see guys go down in the prime of their careers. I think that is what is resonating with me so far. It's like, obviously there's the sheer number of injuries. There's the sheer number of possibly season-ending type of disasters that you're seeing pile up. But also, it's to the best guys in the league. It's to the stars that absolutely dictate the championship run and the outcome of the season. Giannis, the best he's ever. This is his best stretch of his career. Maybe not numbers wise, but just the last couple of years being the MVP and now finally having the chance to win a championship because of not a huge threat from Milwaukee's standpoint in front of them, and then he goes down, and it's like, man, I really thought the Bucks were going to be able to get it done. Hopefully, word comes out that it's not that bad, but we all could see that it looked severe and he could barely put weight on it. So that's been not great for the league. And then also like Kawhi Leonard going down. Luckily, his doesn't seem to have like long-term effects because he's showing up to the games. He's in a suite watching the games. He's around the team. He's still involved with practices or in terms of giving his guidance and giving his advice on certain things and watching film with the guys. So, it seems like Kawhi won't be back during this run, but you really never know with these type of things, especially with how the teams are kind of secretive with their injury reports. But that's what's sticking out to me the most is LeBron, AD, those injuries, Kawhi, Giannis, like all the big time guys, Kyrie, who really that injury threw a spear, it just threw like a wrench into the entire championship conversation because, the last time you had me on, I believe I said Brooklyn was going to coast to the title.
Yeah.
So it's injuries have just kind of marred this playoff run.
Well, so you talked about the game last night, and look, Giannis goes out, and that was gruesome, but they were losing, and Atlanta had control of that game from the start without Trae Young. Prior to so even you can't really blame his injury on that game ending up the way they did because they were playing with such incredible basketball before that. How surprised were you at that in particular that Atlanta was able to do that, trying to sort of work Cam Reddish back into the lineup and doing that entire thing without Trae Young out there, then Giannis goes down and that just cemented it.
Yeah, pretty stunned from a basketball perspective because they don't Atlanta doesn't really have that many they have shot creators, but they don't have that much playmaking that can get everyone else involved unless Trae is on the floor. So I thought, starting Lou Williams playing 35 minutes, that was going to devolve down into some ISO heavy stuff and not really get a good enough flow in the half court offense at least. But Bogdan Bogdanovic has been awesome. I mean, he shot poorly from 2 last night, but getting up 14 threes, I thought that was something that was valuable because if Trae's not on the floor, something I've always said in basketball, you need guys to put the ball in the air. You need guys that are going to get you something in the half court. And, getting up 14 threes individually, I thought that was pretty good for him. He made 6 of them. But it's Clint Capella has been dynamic as a roller this entire season. Ever since he really started playing for Atlanta from that trade from Houston, Clint Capella has been everything and more for them. Their best defensive player as well by a long shot. And obviously, hopefully his his injury he took with that elbow is not going to be that severe. So hopefully we get news that he'll be fine moving forward. But I was really impressed basketball-wise just because I didn't think they had it in the cards to really handle that, even at home. Handle the Milwaukee team that looks, like they smell blood. They feel like they could really take control. But I will say, there's something about sports, and this from college sports and everything. There's something about sports where if your best guy goes down, and he's not going to be there, and your team internally rallies around him, especially if he's there with you in the huddles and stuff. I wasn't surprised that they came out with as much juice and as much intensity as they did because we saw that with the Clippers as well, right? If your guy goes down, your team has something in there, that mental fortitude to really grind down and dig deep and put together these type of performances every once in a while. I don't think it'll last for Atlanta, but hopefully Trae's ankle is not going to be that bad.
Yeah, just an aside to that, I think it's crazy we still don't give Lou Will enough credit. The dude's been 6th man of the year over and over again, and he steps up in that starting role and plays so well. I think people were surprised, but Vegas knows all, right? They must have made a killing when Trae Young goes out, and the amount of people that must have said, lay all you got on the Bucks. It must have been unbelievable. The series has been incredible. I will say, little criticism for Coach. McMillan's been incredible, but I don't know why you have Clint Capella in the game at that point. Yanni's already out. They've got a 20-point lead. Injuries have been so crucial, not only to the Hawks, but to all these teams. It seems crazy those guys were still in the game with it being virtually over.
Yeah, players would not like me if I was a coach because the minute that the game seemed out of hand /over the win is in the bag, the minute I feel that, I'm pulling the players. I'm pulling all of my guys, and I'm just going out there. I'm putting in the third stringers because if there's one thing we've learned since 2012, Derrick Rose, if there's one thing we've learned since all the years that's piled up, it's that you can't get cute, and you cannot take these guys you can't take them for granted, and you really, if the Hawks end up losing Clint as well, I mean that's just Nate McMillan will be thinking about that one for a while.
Oh, big time. And I just imagine this year, how did they not prioritize this? I mean, with all the injuries going on, you see Yanni go down early in that game. I have no idea. But looking at the game tonight, man, 3-2, Phoenix is up. But which Paul has more on the line tonight, Chris Paul or Paul George? Because you got Mr. blowing 3-1s on one side. I mean, Chris Paul's talked about as one of the greatest point guards of all time. And then you got Paul George, who can be playoff P, or as my man Mark Ennis will tell you, way off P. He's been great so far, but, man, they've played every other night for a long, long time. I mean,
this is about
who
to be
has
their
more?
15th game in 29 days.
Yeah, that's it. Who has more on the line? Which Paul?
Well, as a very quick aside, I think it's important to point out Zach Lowe just reported no structural damage to Giannis's left knee.
Hey,
that's good. No timetable for him though. As for what Paul has pressure, I'm actually in a funny spot because I think for me, I really have enjoyed Chris Paul's career. I think he's one of the 3 or 4 best point guards of all time, and I think that it would be incredible to see him move on. And also, like I've tried to defend Paul George's honor because of how great he has been in the playoffs before he got to OKC, and then a couple of series go bad. Last year in the bubble, goes through some stuff, and then all of a sudden he's just like not even a top 20 guy anymore. And I thought that was just crazy for everyone to kind of like go at him the way they did. But for me, it'd be a win-win regardless to see one of those guys kind of break through the door. For pressure-wise, undoubtedly for me, like not even a question, like Chris Paul has the most pressure because although PG would benefit a lot from a finals appearance because he got so close twice in Indiana, Chris, this might be his last chance. Of course, we've been saying that for years. He's 36. He'll be 37 next year. Like we've been saying that, he might have missed this window. But if with the Suns' success this year, he's not getting younger. The Lakers will come back next year. I'm not saying they'll be as good, but they'll be back. Other teams will be in their way. Like if you look at their path that Phoenix has taken, this is it. And really, like with Milwaukee being hurt, Atlanta being hurt, like this is the chance to win the whole thing. So I think the pressure is on him now. And you can kind of, just from my experience watching these games, not sure about you guys, but I could kind of see that he's sensing that pressure. He's kind of flopping a little bit more than usual. I love Chris Paul, so I can say that. Like, he flops a lot. He's flailing more than usual. He is, arguing a little bit more than he does, which is obviously a lot anyway. And I think that he's realizing, hey, the Clippers are just as good, if not better, when they don't have a traditional center on the floor. They can switch everything, and instead of getting my patented pull-up jumpers against drop coverage bigs like Zubac or Boogie, more so than not, I'm going against Marcus Morris or PG or Terrence Mann. Like, there's not a lot of separation for him to succeed in that mid-range area. So I think he's feeling the pressure a little bit. And I'll tell you what, they better close it out tonight. Chris Paul better close it out tonight because Game 7, I don't care where it's played, all bets are off.
That's the tough part of going to L.A. I think it's going to be all the pressure on CP3. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Shane, let me ask you. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, even if Paul George has a disappointing game tonight and they lose, is anyone, including me or yourself, is anyone going to look back and say, man, he disappointed in this run? I don't think so.
No, absolutely not.
It's almost I kind of don't want Kawhi to come back because I think Paul George has a real opportunity here. Like, if Kawhi comes back and wins MVP of the finals here, and it's his third team, he's orchestrated all these moves. I mean, yeah, PG wins a championship and he gets in that circle, but they ain't going to be talking about him. They're going to be talking about Kawhi.
Exactly. Yeah. Good point.
We're talking with Shane Young, NBA reporter for Forbes here. Shane, the conventional wisdom coming into this series was that the Clippers were able to come back and win that series because they really took advantage of Rudy Gobert playing small ball, and that they would not have that opportunity against Phoenix because Ayton is a lot more active, he's a lot more athletic, that sort of thing. But that hasn't really played out that way at all. The Clippers have stayed just as effective. How surprised are you by that, and do you agree with that analysis of the series?
Yeah, the whole series shifted whenever the Clippers internally just decided, like, hey, like they can't stop our small ball unit. Nick Batum's going to stretch out Rudy a little bit. Marcus Morris on one corner, Batum on the other, and just let Paul George run pick and roll or just go ISO, force help, and Rudy has to make a decision. Like, am I going to help my teammates by being at the rim, which is the proper rotation, like, being there for them, and we're going to concede corner threes and open threes from the wing from these sharpshooters, because the Clippers have been the best three-point shooting team of the last 2 or 3 decades. It seems like from the numbers wise, at least during the season. Or Rudy had a choice to make, and the choice was I've got to help at the rim. And they gave up a lot of threes. They gave up a lot of great looks. I think it was the best shot quality, just looking at numbers and looking at wide open looks and how many of them were contested for the Clippers, which was not many. It was the best shot quality you've seen in quite some time. And really, it's kind of crazy to say that, considering the Jazz were the number 1 defense in the regular season, number 1 half-court defense. But as we saw, and I think as is proven, and through years and years of experience now in the modern NBA, the best ability during the playoffs is lineup versatility. You might be a supreme regular season team with a drop coverage big, or a supreme rim protector like Rudy, who is probably the best rim protector in the last 25 years, and you might be great. You might win a lot of games, but in the playoffs, it's a different game. That's the old cliche, but it couldn't be more true from watching this year. And when the Clippers realized that, I think everything from there was an uphill battle. And then that puts a lot of pressure on, if Rudy knows that he has all those duties as a big, playing against smalls, that puts a lot of pressure on Jordan Clarkson, Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley not get blown by. And, that's just a lot to ask of your guards whenever you have guys as big as Kawhi and PG, and Terrence Mann really lit them up too. So it was fascinating. It was fascinating to see how the Jazz kind of got just pigeonholed into playing that way, and they have no stretch big. So I think that's going to be a priority for them. Is while we love this Gobert Favors tandem and switching back and forth between the two, to really give us rim protection, I think they have to realize, hey, man, this isn't going to get it done in the second round.
Yeah, it's interesting to me they pick 2 bigs like that have similar attributes. Derek Favors isn't quite the rim protector that Rudy Gobert is, but limited offensively, those big plotting guys that don't give him a whole lot of different options in terms of playing a different style. And you think about the Utah Jazz and that series with the Clippers, they go up 2-0, and it was like a light switch when Paul George and Kawhi Leonard said, it's time to pick up the defense, and then they ran them out of the gym. You see a team like the Utah Jazz who has a superstar like Donovan Mitchell that dominates all season long, and then they get to where the superstars shine in the playoffs and can't quite get it done. What does a team like Utah have to do? I think first and foremost, keep Donovan Mitchell, but what else?
Mm-hmm. Really just improve on the margins, because I think if you are a 58, which that translates like 63 wins, I think if you're like a 63 win team, there's nothing that you have to really you don't have to make makeshift change. You don't have to change everything. And I think that's important to understand. But, back in the day, or not back in the day, I guess 2017, so just a few years ago, they had Boris Diaw, someone like that could really stretch the floor and provide good defense. They need to look for someone of that archetype, someone that can supply those minutes when Rudy has to sit, or just if Rudy is getting quote unquote played off the floor, you can go to those type of looks instead of playing a Derek Favors. I love Favors too, but it's it didn't work out well. And really, I was surprised that they didn't just say, screw conventionality. Let's go with Bojan Bogdanović at center, or Royce O'Neal at center. Just put your 5 best defenders or your 5 most versatile bodies on the floor and see what happens. They never went to that look one time. And I'm sorry, but if you're Quinn Snyder and you're watching your 25-point lead in the third quarter, midway through the third quarter, 25-point lead go just be erased completely. At some point, you have to pull out those cards. You can't just be relying on something that is clearly not working in the moment. But by the way, I don't think we've talked since that game. Being in that building for that incredible turnaround,
it was just wild.
Where the Clippers outscored them 81-47 in the second half. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. You can even make that comparison, draw that analogy across any sport or of any league of any level. I've never seen that type of shift in the game. And Donovan Mitchell seems to be, to me, just from my read, I think he's fully loyal to the team. I think that he wants to be there. He wants to, give them give them his service for, at least until this contract plays out, this new one he just signed. So I think they don't have any worry about him leaving. It's just, they kind of surrounded him with the best offensive lineup they possibly could, the best shooting roster that you could possibly put around Donovan. It seems like, from the salary cap perspective, but it's the defensive versatility that, it puts too much pressure on him and Mike Conley to kind of stop penetration.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that, D. Wade, obviously in the front office with the Utah Jazz a day ago, said he's seriously concerned about Donovan Mitchell's desire to stay with the Jazz. That's really why I bring that point up. You got a great team. They were number one in the NBA, and then now you're up 2-0 against a beat-up Clippers team, and you just get rolled. So I'm with you. I don't think you need to make drastic changes, but I think especially with that Derek Favors spot, a backup center that lets you play a little different style, I think they're going to have to do something.
Well, and Shane, let me jump in, and piggyback on that. What is your take with Donovan there, and just the guys moving out of front office positions, maybe Danny Ainge moving in there, the influence of Dwayne Wade, maybe Shane Battier sort of coming out there from a role, in the Heat organization, that sort of thing. What do you make of the back office changes that are being made there? Are they good? Are they bad for Donovan staying in Utah long term?
For a while, for a couple of days, I was a little concerned or a little, curious how it was going to play out because we didn't really know the details. But seeing a little bit more of the details that Dennis Lindsey was more so at odds with Quinn Snyder, and from all accounts throughout the season, I know that obviously he's a player. He has to say good things about his coach. So that's you could take it with a grain of salt if you want, but I think he loves playing with Quinn Snyder. I think he thinks he's a genius. I think that he believes he's always going to make the proper adjustments that's viable. Obviously, Utah did not have those stretch bigs that we were talking about, so I think Quinn might have switched up if he needed to. But I think he likes being there, kind of just under the radar a little bit. Although Donovan, you have to imagine once he gets into the later parts of his career, he's going to want to branch out, and that's completely fine. I mean, it happened. It happened with Paul George. Paul George, I have heard him in the locker room talk about how much he absolutely adored Indiana. And, it comes to when he's age, 27 at the time, and one day wakes up and tells his agent that he wants out. So, you can never read into this stuff the way you want to. But from what I can tell, I think that the front office stuff doesn't really matter for him because he loves his coach. And I think Dwayne Wade being there is someone that he can talk to, and it's not like Wade's going to push him out of town. Yeah, it's not. Wade's not going to push him away. Being part owner of the team, if anything, he'll pull him to Utah more. So I think that'll be good for him.
Last one before we let you go here, Shane. What's your overall sort of take on the way Portland has executed that coaching search, the relationship there with Damian Lillard, and somehow managing to not communicate that you actually busted your butt to do background work on Chauncey Billups and the allegations against him, and then just sort of failing, at actually addressing it once you introduce him as a coach. And then, what do you think ultimately happens with Damon in Portland?
It felt like a dumpster fire just because of how they handled it. And I'm not here to say Chauncey is going to do a great job or a horrible job. We don't know, but the basketball seems to be, at least from my perspective, it seems to be taking a back seat to everything, which rightfully so. But I'm also not here to relitigate stuff that happened in 1997. I was 3 years old. I don't know anything. I don't know much about it. And really, that is kind of an indictment on how media was back then, I guess, because we didn't really know about it until I guess obviously some people knew about it, but not a lot of people knew about it widespread until just a few weeks ago. So it's not great that the Portland Trailblazers kind of were not transparent at all during their press conference. And if anything, I think their PR team needs to be reprimanded for that. Shutting down questions the way they did, not really giving a lot of detail. And Neil O'Shea, their GM, saying, who used to be the GM of the Clippers, saying you have to trust us. You have to take our word that we
most certainly do not.
It's I'm sorry, I'm not taking your word for a lot of things, considering what's happened in your organization in the last last few years. But it's I think just from a basketball perspective, I think Dame is going to love Chauncey from a basketball perspective. I have no idea how the off-court matters disrupt that, and I'm not here to, obviously it's not my place to really go into that because I don't know much about it, but everyone on the Clippers that I've talked to, coaches, just staff members, PR team, everybody, and even the players like Jay Scrubb. I asked Jay Scrubb a couple months ago when he made his debut in a game, is there any coach that has made a significant impact on you since you've become a pro and you've been in these pro locker rooms and stuff and these training facilities? He said that Chauncey has been the one to help him understand reads, not just point out certain things, but this is where you need to be on this pick and roll. This is where you need to be when this happens. So he gave a lot of credit to Chauncey for helping him rewind the film and go through it slowly and really understand where he needs to be on the court. And Paul George has said that Chauncey helped him become a much better passer, and I think we've seen that play out. So I think Dame is going to like Chauncey, but I have to be honest with you, I don't think the first-year head coach, I don't think it's going to be better than what they had. I could kind of go along with what Mark Cuban said, the grass is not always greener when you hire a new coach. So I'm not sitting here and expecting the Trailblazers to be contending now. I'll tell you that.
All right, Shane Young, NBA Forbes, man, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of these playoffs, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Good to see you, man.
Thanks,
right.
Shane.
Shane, good stuff from me. I think he's right. Yeah, I don't even think you and I are equipped to address what was alleged against Chauncey. I just thought it was dumb for the Blazers to hire him and not be ready to talk about it. And is there anything less likely to fly than to say you're just going to have to trust us and just shut the questions down? No, guys, it's ridiculous. And then for the reporting to come out today, they hired a former FBI agent to actually do a formal investigation, re-question people and everything. Tell us that.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do. Hey, guys, listen, we killed ourselves to dig into that. Nothing to it.
You
say
talk
it.
about your due diligence process. That sounds a heck of a lot better
and
than.
then it never gets brought up again.
Yeah. Don't ask. Don't want to talk about it. That doesn't work in positions like this.
And now all they've done is allow there to be more tentacles off this story, and some gas bags in Louisville are discussing it as we're like, what the hell? Right?
It's just another PFA. It's like the pitcher's not being ready to talk about Spider Tack stuff being taken away from him. It's like,
right.
You got to know.
If you do something wrong and there's a press conference coming up or something big, do you not expect things like that? Do you not prepare at all? I would have thought that the thing you just said, we had an FBI agent do his due diligence, go back and question, ask, dig, turn over rocks, all that stuff. You'd have been happy with that answer. But if I'm sitting next to the person who asked the first question, I probably would have raised my hand and say, I'd really like to hear the answer to that. Can we go back to that question? Let's do that again. And just almost force them to do it. Come on.
What are they going to do? Kick you out?
Right.
I guess.
Yeah,
probably.
Maybe. All right, let's take a break here. When we come back, we didn't do it yesterday, so it's time for buy or sell. We'll hit that on the other side here on the Drive on Thunderbolt.
Make your life better with a new job at UPS. Join Team Louisville as a warehouse worker, earn $14.50 plus up to $425 in weekly bonuses depending on shift. Search and apply now at upsjobs.com/Louisville. That's upsjobs.com/Louisville.
CarMax is hiring experienced auto technicians for many of its 200-plus stores nationwide. If you're looking for a job where you can make a great living while working on the cars that you love, then CarMax is the place for you. Join CarMax to grow your technical expertise and work with state-of-the-art tools and technology. Work with the cars you love. Join CarMax. Apply today at CarMaxAutotech.com.
Exmark makes the mowers that care for the lawns that set the stage for the backyard life. As the commercial mowers more landscape pros trust, Exmark mowers get you on and off the lawn without compromising cut quality, comfort, or reliability. Exmark, official mowers of the backyard life, starting at $29.99. Learn about the available finance offers and check them out today at The Mower Shop, 7400 Preston Highway, Louisville, Kentucky, 502-969-64.
You're locked on The Drive, presented by Fitness Market, right here on 93.9 The Ville. Now here's Mark Ennis and Luke Hancock.
Welcome back into The Drive here on 93.9 The Ville. Mark Ennis, Luke Hancock here on a Wednesday right before we get into a buy or sell here. Nicole Auerbach and others reporting it is now official. The NCAA Board of Governors or Directors or whatever has approved name, image, likeness. Basically, the NCAA waiving the white flag here. Whatever the laws in your state, follow them. If you don't have any laws in your state, whatever. You win. Basically, yes. And
Kentucky, they did it right. If you think about it, don't put any laws in place, and then when they approve whatever laws you don't have, we're in first, right? Yeah,
exactly. So it is now official beginning tomorrow. Tomorrow also, by the way, July 1st, it's Bobby Bonilla Day. We already mentioned that. It's also the day where the athletic year basically starts over. So the College World Series is kind of the last thing. It's going to be over right now. This game, the last game being played right now, July 1st. If you did things like conference realignment, you are in your new conference starting tomorrow. Because Eastern Kentucky's moving from the OVC to the ASUN, right? That all happens tomorrow. So July 1st tips towards next year, starting for everybody on the sports calendar. But it is now time for buy or sell.
Did you also mention, we said it earlier, but the last day to transfer?
That too.
Yeah. I think that's important. I wasn't sure, and you posed this question at the beginning of the show, just expectations for if the transfer portal just has this flood of people, and you gotta take into account the numbers right now. 1 in every 4 in some sports, 1 in every 3 in some sports have already been through the portal or are in it currently. So how many more can you really get in there? And then if you decide, I'm going to wait a little bit, what kind of ramifications does that have on summer team and whatever your sport is, your development, right? What are you going to do? If you decide, hey, now I want to transfer, you're just going to go sit in the dorm for a while. You can't really do anything. So big day in sports in the middle of summer here.
Well, I want to be clear about something before I hit the open for buy or sell, because it does kind of impact something I've got lined up for buy or sell. Tomorrow is the deadline to not only put your name in the portal, but to transfer, right?
No, you just have to declare.
Declare. Okay, got you. Okay.
Yep.
Then, okay, all right. That completely changes the narrative I was going to try to throw at you guys for buy or sell.
By the way, the Cubs got up 7-0 on Milwaukee today, and they are now trailing 14-7.
Well, the NL Central is a bunch of bums, so that's not surprising me. All right, let's do this thing.
Either buys or f***ing
sell.
Get back in there at once and sell. The only problem you're going to have is that you didn't buy more.
All right, let's start off with some NBA. We'll kind of backtrack a little bit. We'll go in chronological order based off time here and the way things have kind of played out in the last 24 hours. So starting off with the NBA Draft Combine, some stuff that's coming down the last few days. Obviously, we've heard a lot of feedback about some of the local prospects, so let's start there. So based off of what we heard from those who are in the know, buy or sell, David Johnson is a first-round draft pick.
I'm going to sell. No. But I think he helped himself. I think he was starting to trickle downward towards even maybe the bottom end of the second round. I think he's going to go in the top 40. I think he's helped himself up to where he's going to be early second round. He's going to get guaranteed money. It'll be a two-way deal. But I do think he's going to be top 40, but I think it'll be in between 30 and 40.
I'm buying. I think the word that pops to me off of the Combine report of how he did, versatility.
Yeah.
Yep.
He is the epitome of positionless basketball where you can defend 1 through 4, 6'3.5". He's 205, but he can really work on that. He's got the frame to put on some serious weight and size. He's incredibly athletic. He showed that he can shoot it better, right? From freshman year to sophomore year, his three-point percentage shot through the roof. And I think those things, you want Jordan Wara coming off most improved player, not same stats in the running for player of the year in the conference. He just didn't make a big jump. I think the guys that do the most for themselves in terms of the draft process are the ones that show the weakness in their freshman year and they drastically improve on it to their sophomore year, and then they have the other pieces. He's 20 years old. He's crazy athletic. He's got a great feel for the game, as versatile as it gets. I think he squeaks into the first round.
I could see, I'm sticking myself, but I could see one of these teams, like we were just talking about the Jazz, where they small ball and they got in the Clippers, switching everything and just sort of screwing them with that. I could see the Jazz or somebody at the tail end of the first round, which is a very good team, but who doesn't lacking versatility, something like that, saying, okay, this guy could help us at the end of the first round. I could see that.
We've talked about this before, and then we'll move to Patty Ice here, but I've told you guys this story over and over again. What do you what do you want from your 12th or 13th guy on the bench? Excuse me. You want consistency. You want to know exactly what you're going to get. I think David Johnson, if he settles into a role, maybe he's not a bona fide starter. He's not going to turn into Donovan Mitchell or Terry Rozier, but I do think he can do a ton on the basketball court to help you win games. He's humble. He's a great kid. And, again, stupid athletic.
I'm going to buy.
I knew you were a smart guy.
Way to make me the jerk.
I knew you were a smart guy,
Well,
Patty.
no, I mean, I was nothing about what Mark said, nothing about what you said. Decided my path here when it comes to buy or sell on whether or not David Johnson's going to be a first-round draft pick based off of the analysts and the analytics that we've heard about him in the last week. My thought process is this. In the back half of the first round, especially the last 5 picks, you're pretty much taking projects anyways. I mean, and I think David Johnson's a hell of a project. I don't think he's one that can't be fixed. I don't think he really needs to be fixed. I think he needs to be utilized in the right situation. And I see a handful of teams on the back half of the first round that need a guy that not with just versatility, but a guy with a ton of potential. And I think with what you're going to see in the back half of the first round, I think David Johnson's going to be there. And I think some teams are going to get smart and say, you know what? This guy has the potential, the versatility, and also, by the way, the one thing we told him we wanted him to do, he got better at. Things didn't work out for this team down the stretch, and we've seen players really stand out in situational occurrences where they really maximize I want to say that the team that they're on. And I feel like for him last year with Louisville, I just feel like it was a tough situation, and nobody won from that. I'm sorry. And I think David Johnson could get a fresh start and get on a team that views highly enough of him to really develop him into something that can really be a great role player in the NBA.
Does it help or hurt David Johnson that he did defer to Carlik Jones so much last year? Like, on the one hand, again, I don't think he's a bona fide starter playing 35 minutes a game in the NBA. So
Agreed.
Him being able to embrace that role, you think it helps or hurts him before we go on to the next one?
Yeah, before we go to that, it helps for the very thing you're talking about. That's exactly what you're going to be asking the 12th or 13th guy on your roster to do anyway, right?
Yeah, embrace the role.
Maturity, humility, all that, totally.
All right, let's go to our next one here. We're going to be a little bit NBA-centric for buy or sell before we get to the top of the hour.
If you threw me Wimbledon questions, I would not be very good, so that's a good thing.
Well, I mean, you guys think I know a damn thing about Wimbledon. I'm not going to throw you a
You know it all.
question.
Says the car racing guy.
Come on. Come on. The only time I'm throwing car racing questions is for freaking Stump the Gas Bag so I can get a little shameless plug.
And the only reason that I say car racing
Is to
is
mess
because,
with
and because Blankenbaker would be like, well, horses racing too. So,
Oh, God.
Anyway.
All right. Considering the pieces Portland has, buy or sell, the Blazers will have more of an immediate success with Phillips at the helm than Carlisle as he returns to Indiana.
oh boy.
You guys want me to say it one more time?
No, I get it. I
Okay.
get it.
It's kind of confusing.
Now I'm going to sell that because I think Damian Lillard's going to force his way out of there.
No.
So I think he's going to force his way out of there. Chris Haynes, which is like his guy, right, reported over the weekend that Damian Lillard didn't like that he got blamed from fans on social media and that sort of thing for them hiring Billups instead of Becky Hammond and hiring Billups with his background. And Dame's like, screw this. I think he wants out of there. So I'm selling.
He would be a stud if he got moved around to New York, too. Start working on a few pieces around there.
Yep.
You know what? I think Rick Carlisle's a good coach. I'm going to sell as well.
No.
I'm not saying Chauncey doesn't do a good job. He's championship pedigree. Dude's been in the NBA for a long time. He's seen a lot of different situations. You've seen, the Steve Nash, the Jason Kidd experiments like that, and I think he's a guy who understands the game so well. I like that they're taking guys that were floor generals and putting them in decision-making positions like that. And ultimately, I think the NBA is becoming so analytical that it makes it easier for some of those tougher decisions. He's got to worry about the flow of the game, how to make sure his team comes together, really making Damian Lillard the leader of this team and help him win. He doesn't need to help him score. He needs to help him win. What are the little things you can do to piece this thing together and win? Because they've had a ton of talent. The miss they've talked about is Nurkic, but you had Hassan Whiteside in there and gave him a boatload of cash. And if you had asked me, I could have told you he ain't going to do anything. Now, he led the league in block shots at 7'2", but the minuses hurt him way more than the pluses helped him. He was trying to make the Memphis Grizzlies roster with me, and unfortunately he signed for $100 million and I did not. But I digress. I'm going to sell. I think Rick Carlisle is a good coach.
It's been a long time since let me word it this way. I'd say it's been a hot minute since all three of us agreed upon something during buy or sell, but I'm obviously selling.
A lot of uncertainty there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the one thing that stands out to me about the situation in Portland is what you said, Mark. That was going to be my point. The fact that there's been the trade rumors, the fact that I think C.J. McCollum would love the situation to make that his team. I think he would love that. I think that's a narrative that people haven't really been talking about, and I think that organization loves him. I think for what they're paying and quite frankly, the value they're getting out of him, I mean, you love that aspect of it. So I see that, and I'm like, okay. So I think C.J. McCollum might step up as their guy, but, I mean, that might take some time to really build that into something legitimate. That's my point with that. But the other side of it is, look, I think that the current Pacers roster, they keep most of their core together. So, for example, Sabonis, you keep obviously you're going to keep Warren, you're going to keep Brogdon, you're going to keep LeVert. If you get those guys to buy into a championship-winning coach that, by the way, won a championship when everyone said he wasn't going to and shouldn't have with the Dallas Mavericks, I mean, the Miami Heat should have won that championship that year. And they didn't, and it was because of the coaching of Rick Carlisle and what he was able to do with the pieces in Dallas. And, Rick got really close many, many years. Rick's been very successful. He's one of the few tenured coaches that's lasted as long as he has. Think about that. Besides Popovich, who really else has been tenured as long as he has? So the dude knows what he's doing, and I think they're going to buy in year one, and I think they're going to have some success next year, and I wouldn't be shocked at all if they're a 4 seed in the playoffs. Wow. So that's why I'm selling. I think the Pacers are back on track next year.
Shocker from Petty Ice, the Indiana boy.
All right, well, whatever. Let's get to our next buy or sell here. Might be our last one. We might have time for a couple more here for the top of the hour, but buy or sell. The Jazz need more than one major piece to take the next step as a championship caliber team. Buy or sell?
I'm going to sell that. I don't think they were that far away. I agree with Luke. I think we've said this off the air at least. If the guy off the bench coming in for Rudy Gobert was a guy like Montrez, who's not an offensive liability and who's very good on pick and roll, and that sort of thing, can switch and be a rebounding presence and all that sort of thing, and they just stay healthy, that they can win the entire thing. So, no, I don't think they need to make major overhauls. And I don't even know how that series might have been different if just Donovan stays healthy entirely, because he was entirely limited. You could tell, by the end there. So, for me, no, also, I don't think they need to make dramatic overhauls to that roster at all.
Sell.
Yeah.
How could you think that? No. How could you think that? Was this the number one team in the NBA or not? Right through the regular season. Now, don't get me wrong. I think you need one more stud to push them over the top. And we talked about stylistically some of their troubles. They just can't play a certain way with Rudy Gobert out there. And he's such a dominant player. He's so different, right? We don't have guys like him all over the NBA. He embraces his role. I think he does want to score a little bit more. But ultimately, I think minor changes are needed, and they go over the top. Now, how you get there is the tough part. I think you got to go get somebody like Trez. If you could trade him 1-for-1 with Derek Favors and maybe some young talent on your roster, great. But you got a couple guys getting a little bit older in Conley, and Rudy Gobert still in his 20s. So, I mean, to me, they're not very far. They play a unique style. But to make that deep playoff run, that style is going to be incredibly difficult, because when you shoot that many threes, this cliche gets played out all the time, but when you live and die by the three ball, It's tough when you get to some of these tough playoff atmospheres.
Well, something I want to bring up real quick is Golden State, when they finally realized they needed to get two different types of bigs in the game. Do you guys remember they got JaVale McGee? They're like, okay, after him, he is your
Andrew Bogut.
Right, like they had a stereotypical big, and they had that with Andrew Bogut as well. But after that, when they took him out, they played small ball, and they had the guys and really the personnel to be successful. Well, then again, when you got KD and you've got Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry, it's hard not to be successful. But what made them so damn good is the versatility of having different styles of play when you go away from your traditional lineup, right? And you guys are exactly right. And that's why I'm selling.
No.
I think one piece is what they need. I think one piece that's not Derek Favors that can really change, how they view that team once they go to the subs, right? Yeah. Once they get past that first lineup. I think that's why the Pacers, in my opinion, that they've done something similar, but they just can't get over the hump of having a superstar that can carry the rest of the load. And the one thing the Pacers do at the center position that I love is that they've got kind of three different centers on that team. Goga Batiste is completely different from Miles Turner. Domantas Sabonis completely different from Turner as well. Turner's a defensive guy. Sabonis is, look, I'm a pick and pop, and I'm gonna give you that work of the rebounds, and I'm gonna have a triple double damn near every night. I'm gonna line up the stat sheet. Miles Turner is I'm gonna get you some points, I'm gonna get you some blocks, and I might be the defensive player of the year. They need to kind of find that element to where they've got a big that can play the traditional NBA style of offense that we're used to in today's landscape. That is, not necessarily small ball, but a guy that can, really help you with a lineup that shoots a lot of threes in traditional NBA.
You want me to tell you where the void is?
Hit me.
And it'll be very obvious for you with this roster. Why the heck do you have Derek Favors, Rudy Gobert, and Udoka Azubuike on the same roster?
Yeah.
They're all three the same dude.
They're all they have almost the exact same skill set. Now, Rudy Gobert's a little better at blocking shots, where Derek Favors may be a little bit better on the block or whatever you want to say, but three guys very similar. I think you got to ship one of those guys out. You got to have some value, but they didn't play your boy Juwan Morgan at the 5. They didn't go small ball. They're stuck on playing this 4-out, 1-in style. It is what it is, but you got to knock down shots.
I think the one thing that'll help them next year is having a new front office to maybe pressure Quinn Snyder a little bit and say, look, buddy, we've got to become more flexible. And I think that's maybe why you go ahead and you get a fresh face in there to kind of, push, pressure the talking point there. Make this a little bit of a reality where you say, look, we've got to become more flexible in unique ways. But
it's easy to start those conversations when you were up 2-0 in the series against the Clippers, and it was light switch turn, and they just dominated you the whole way. It's easy for Dwayne Wade to go in there and say, well, you guys stunk at this and this and this, and then get those conversations across easy.
Agreed.
All right, that's going to do it for hour number 2 here. We are going to take a break. We still have a ton to get into. The phone lines are open. If you want to get in here, you can. 8150-939. We can talk about name, image, likeness. It's here. We can get into some of that. We can get into more of that, the recruiting article, what works, what doesn't, hearing from parents about all of that. And our man Bill Bender, who I love, and maybe we'll have him on and argue with him later. But he's got the ranking of coaches in college football. He does it every year. He has Stoops in the top 25, and I just think that's a bunch of bull crap. So we'll talk about all that and more here on The Drive on Nintendo. Be right back.